Quan was born in a village full of people with superpowers called attractors. But instead of being celebrated for their unique abilities, attractors were feared and hunted by others. Because of this, Quan's clan had to live in isolation to protect themselves and hide their powers. Despite being forced to live in solitude, Quan and his little brother Toa had a happy childhood. Toa had a kind heart and always believed that one day, the world would be peaceful and free from discrimination. However, one day Toa did a good deed by healing the wounded leg of an outsider. Unfortunately, this act of kindness backfired, and the warriors attacked and killed everyone. Quan was out and returned to find his entire clan had been wiped out. Devastated by the loss of his family and overcome with anger, Quan's powers were awakened for the first time. However, his unstable emotions made him lose control, and he not only took revenge by killing the soldiers but also innocent people. Filled with regret and guilt, Quan vowed to save others like him who have awakened powers but can't control them. 1,000 years had passed since Quan's clan was wiped out, but Quan was still alive due to his powers, which granted him immortality. Quan had become the leader of a group of attractors whose mission was to defend themselves against the Custos organization. A group that hunted and exterminated attractors using human cyborgs who could detect when someone's powers would awaken. They lived in a place called Fantasium Garden, a theme park with a shield barrier to protect attractors' identity and location from their enemies. Quan received a mission to save a little boy named Yuma, who awakened and was going berserk. Without hesitation, Quan arrived at the scene using his incredible ability called Insania. It allowed him to transform his physical body into an armored form, giving him godlike strength, speed, agility, durability, and healing. Quan quickly shielded the boy from the cyborgs and used his water manipulation power to throw the enemies away. But the Custos cyborgs soon surrounded Quan and fired at his shoulder. They tied his hands, and the human cyborg Epsilon aimed at but Quan's friend Yuri came to his rescue. This allowed Quan to free himself and fight back. With agility and swift movements, Quan fought off the enemy fires and knocked their soldiers down one by one, while Yuri protected and saved the boy. The next day, Quan was informed by Tae, a telepathic attractor, that Yuma was struggling to control his powers. Quan decided to help and gave Yuma a wristwatch that would aid him in suppressing his power. Quan also made Yuma promise to use his powers for good and never to abuse them. Later that night, Quan received a signal that a girl named Kiri was about to awaken her powers. Quan quickly arrived outside Kiri's house, where he witnessed her awakening the power of a voice that could both heal or destroy everything. Fortunately, she stopped her awakening just in time. Kiri had lost her voice due to the trauma of seeing her parents' death, and her only remaining family member was her grandmother, who was on her deathbed. Quan, who had also suffered greatly in the past because of what happened to his little brother, decided to protect her. Later, Quan learned that Yuma had escaped from the hospital, leaving the wristwatch behind. At the same time, Kiri's power had been fully awakened. Custos's cyborgs were targeting both in different places, which put Quan in a dilemma of which one to help first. Tuka confronted him and told him not to act like a hero because he can't save everyone. But Quan was determined, even if it meant risking his own life. He activated his power to fly toward Yuma, who was throwing lava bursts and going berserk. Quan managed to deal with the enemy and pushed them away. He tried to calm Yuma down but ended up hurting himself due to Yuma's explosive bubbles. Tuka took the chance and used his teleportation ability to take them to a factory where Yuri was protecting Kiri. To save everyone, Quan attacked the cyborgs with all his force. Despite the enemy's continuous fire, Quan kept dodging their attacks and retaliated. Unfortunately, one of the Custos soldiers struck Quan from behind with electricity, causing him to fall to the ground. But before the enemy could hurt him further, Yuma used his power to activate the safety alarm, forcing the Custos cyborgs to retreat. With Yuma's support, Quan reached the bridge where his comrades were waiting for him. He praised Yuma for his admirable effort of using his power for good. This incident changed Quan, and he realized that he couldn't save everyone alone. Therefore, he showed gratitude to his comrades for helping him and invited Kiri to join the attractor forces. A few days later, Quan's group engaged in a fierce battle with Custos forces to save a new attractor boy. While Quan was fighting with all his might, he noticed that the cyborg Epsilon was trying to catch the boy. Fortunately, Tay shielded the boy and activated her telepathy power. This caused all three of them to lose consciousness. After the fight, the medical staff informs that Tay's telepathy powers had caused her and Epsilon to be trapped inside the boy's dreams. This meant that Cousteau's forces could detect Attractor's locations by tracking Epsilon's mind. Quan knew that he had to act fast to free everyone. So, he entered the boy's dream, where he found everyone inside the dream state is seeing their true past, which they had forgotten or wanted to forget. Quan searched for Tay and Epsilon, and he discovered that they were acting as siblings instead of facing their past. Quan tried to wake them up, but he suddenly saw glimpses of his days with Toa. As Quan relived his painful past in a loop, it shattered him to the point that he lost control. As a result, everyone inside the dream state and outside saw through his past. This forced Quan to not only free himself from trapped memories, but also make Tay and Epsilon face the reality of their past. Together, they confronted the boy who created the fantasy world. As Tay and Quan encouraged the kid to be a hero, the dream state shattered, allowing everyone to break free. Quan returned to the theme park and walked down the street, reflecting on his goals when he suddenly heard Tay scream for help. Without hesitation, Quan followed her voice and found her surrounded by Cousteau's forces. As they were about to shoot Tay, Quan bravely stepped in front of her and took all the bullets on himself. To fight back, Quan stood up and kicked the first cyborg. But the other two attacked him simultaneously, leaving him cornered. However, Quan wasn't going down without a fight. He pushed them away and protected Tay from Epsilon, who was still considering Tay as his sister. As Epsilon lost control of his firepower and started burning, Quan realized that he was also an attractor. Therefore, he protected Epsilon from the cyborgs and took him to his medical team. After Epsilon regained consciousness, Quan called him by his human name, Shun, and invited him to join his group. This touched Shun's heart, as he had been living with fabricated memories that attractors were monsters who had killed his sister. In reality, he had been the one to accidentally kill her when he couldn't control his powers. Shun considered himself a monster, but Quan tried to reassure him that they were all just humans who deserved to live. This caused Shun to start to question his beliefs. A few hours later, the emergency alarm bells sounded, signaling Quan that something was wrong. He quickly found Shun breaking the protective shield of the theme park, exposing their location. In his armored form, Quan hit Shun, but he stopped the attack and pushed Quan back with full force. Realizing that Shun was being controlled by Cousteau's, Quan threw rocks at him, but Shun rushed forward and kept punching him. To save others, Quan broke the roof glass and tried to run away, but Shun kicked him with such force that he fell to the ground outside. As Quan stood up, Shun attempted to punch him, but Quan dodged the attack and grabbed Shun from behind. Their fight was interrupted by the arrival of Cousteau's cyborgs, who shot Quan, causing him to bleed and be unable to protect anyone. But then, Quan's group appeared to fight against the enemy cyborgs, motivating Shun to break free from Cousteau's control and fight for Quan. As both forces engaged in battle, Quan refused to give up and fought back, even with an injured body. However, one of the Cousteau's cyborgs blocked Quan's attack and cut his hand in half. The enemy then shot Quan's chest and head, and he began to bleed out. The enemy forces retreated, thinking they had killed Quan, and planned to launch an explosive bomb to eradicate everyone. To stop it, Yuma uses his bubble power to create a shield surrounding the theme park, protecting everyone from the bomb. The blast made Quan fall underground, where discovers his long-lost brother, Toa, sealed inside a crystal. This revelation shocks Quan, who had been carrying the guilt of not being able to protect his brother for over 1,000 years. Quan's friend, Seiji, appears and admits to hiding Towa's survival from him, which causes Quan to attack Seiji in anger. However, Quan soon realizes that Seiji meant no harm and stops attacking him. Seiji explains that his ancestors found Toa on the battlefield after the slaughter of Quan's clan and provided him shelter to heal his wounds. Toa, afraid of his dangerous power that could enhance every power. So, he sealed himself in the crystal to prevent others from capturing him and using his abilities. From that day on, Seiji's family has been protecting Toa. Quan is devastated to learn that his brother sacrificed himself to make him immortal and had been hidden from him for so long. Kamishiro, the commander of the Kusto's forces, swoops into the SC. Quan, overhearing that Kusto's cyborgs are storming the building where his buddies are hiding, springs into action and races to rescue his friends faster than a cheetah on roller skates. Upon arriving at the battlefield, Quan hurls an electrifying spear straight at a cyborg who's got Shun in a chokehold. The spear zaps the cyborg, freeing Shun. The two join forces and engage the enemy. Out of nowhere, Kamishiro pops up on the scene as if he's just hit teleport on his remote. He reveals his true identity as an attractor who's got the power to steal other abilities. He offers the attractors a future so bright they'll need shades, where they can live a happy normal life with their parents. Tempted by the promise, a few kids decide to join him. Determined to stop them, Quan and Shun launch an attack on Kamishiro. But Kamishiro whips up a cube barrier, trapping Quan and Shun inside like bugs. With a smirk, he teleports himself and his new recruits away. Haunted by memories of his past failures, Quan feels a pang of guilt for not protecting his friends. It's like déjà vu from that time when he was away from his village and couldn't save his people. But now, he's determined to make things right by chasing down Kamishiro to rescue his friends. As Quan and Shun gear up for the ultimate showdown, Yuri and Yuma jump on the rescue wagon. Sneaking into Kusto's headquarters, the team suddenly finds themselves surrounded by a mob of menacing cyborgs. Fear not, Shun morphs into his flame-armored form, lighting up the room like a birthday candle. With the cyborgs distracted, Quan and the others blaze forward, ready to save their comrades. Quan gets separated from his squad and reaches the commander's office. There he discovers his brother, wide awake but still encased in the crystal. Before he can free his sibling, Kamishiro pulls a fast one, trapping Quan in a maze of crystal icicles. Quan's tenacity and refusal to give up make him break the trap. But Kamishiro decides to conjure up gravity-defying crystal rocks and launches one right at Quan's shoulder, giving him a piercing souvenir. Meanwhile, Tawa's seal starts to crack, and Kamishiro can hardly wait to absorb Tawa's powers. Just in time, Quan breaks free from his crystalline confinement and tries to whisk his brother away. But Kamishiro's power gives Quan the old heave-ho, sending him flying across the room. Out of the blue, the Kusto's system gets hacked, and water floods in like it's a surprise pool party. As everyone scrambles to evacuate the building, Quan and Kamishiro prepare for a face-off in the open sky. Quan lunges at Kamishiro, but the cunning commander uses his special ability to halt Quan in midair and then zaps him with a jolt of electricity. Quan plummets to the ground like a fallen superhero. Kamishiro conjures a sinister black sphere, causing everyone nearby to lose control of their powers. The result: pandemonium and chaos reign among the forces. As Quan struggles, he envisions himself drowning underwater. In this watery world, his friends surround him, singing a song of hope that inspires him to get back on his feet. Quan surges forward, but Kamishiro has other plans. He spears metal pillars into Quan's armored body, immobilizing him. Using all his strength, Quan breaks free from the metal restraints just in time for Kamishiro to unleash a fiery attack. In a dramatic turn of events, Kamishiro stabs Quan's chest with his hand. But instead of admitting defeat, Quan seizes the opportunity to enter the enemy's mind. There, he finally gets the chance to talk with his brother. Toa, feeling guilty for awakening Quan's powers and burdening him, apologizes. But Quan is simply glad to see his brother again. They hold hands, and with their powers combined, the brothers break free from Kamishiro's grasp, and Quan dons shiny new white armor. As he advances, Kamishiro hurls massive stones at him, but Quan's determination is rock solid. Kamishiro tries one last trick, causing the ground to rupture and the surroundings to crumble. But Quan channels his godly powers, striking Kamishiro with lightning and draining him of his abilities. Aged and powerless, Kamishiro begs for mercy and Quan decides to spare him. As the battle ends, Quan's group celebrates their victory. Looking at the sunset, Quan tells Seiji that Toa finally released him from his immortality curse. The time starts to move again for Quan as he is free from his painful past. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.